don't know why it's needing to reconnect to LinkedIn. That's okay. Give me 2 seconds. Mhm. Just gonna have a lot of patience. Well, let's try this and see why it's not. All right, we're live. I was not wanting to go to LinkedIn there for a second. Sorry, guys, we're here. It's okay. We love life, right? Like life is always throwing us different challenges, as Enrique and I both know here recently. Before I even get started to introduce Enrique, like first of all, I think you're an incredible human. Like you've been amazing in my life and such a great mentor. And we met through the Rosie Network, and now we're a part of Outlier together. I coach with you. So I'm really honored to get to share this space and highlight what you're doing in the world. And guys, like just to throw this out there, he literally had surgery last week and still said, "Yep, I want to show up." And I said, "Okay." Like just double checking here, but Enrique is somebody to definitely know if you don't know him. First of all, not only has he, been there, he's an international leader coaching all over the world and really just been for so many things. It's even hard to describe everything fully, but he has a top podcast out of the top 200. He's number 76. Let's see, the top 200 biggest voices in leadership, top 10 in inspiring leadership. So he's a veteran and just somebody dear to my soul. Thank you so much for being here. We'll continue to win all of your greatness, but I would just really love for you to dive in. First of all, I just want to thank you. 26 years and then incredible and such a really honor to our nation and just your leadership over the years. But if you want to just walk us through your path of what got you started in this work and a little bit about you.
Well, Candace, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I love what you're doing as a coach. From that perspective, it just warms my heart to see you thrive and to see you diving into so many aspects of what you can. And this is one of them. So I congratulate you. And, about me, wow, as we start this Hispanic Heritage Month, if we're still doing that in America, because that is a good
Aw, no.
question. Uh, but I'm celebrating Hispanics around the world. Yeah, born in Puerto Rico, joined the military uh, early, retired early, 26 years, went around the world, enjoyed what I did back then was meteorology and oceanography. A lot of people don't know that about me, but that is my bread and butter as a career. And after those years, decided to, hey, well, the Navy decided, but it was time to retire and do something else. Well, after my hand at 2 or 3 civilian jobs, I realized that leadership was a challenge in the aspect of, wow, we have a lot of people out here getting paid to do a job at a level, and they're still getting paid and they don't even meet the minimum requirement in terms of leadership. I saw a lot
Mm,
of people stabbing folks in the back, plowing through them, taking all the credit, and that was in a short 4-year period when I was post-military,
mm.
and I said, "This just cannot be." And in the military, we have a structure. You meet
Right.
these wickets, you get promoted. Eh, is there any, play in the human aspect as how far you get? I'm sure there is. We're all human, right? But it was not as what I saw. And so I decided that I would take all my leadership training, experience, and package that in a way where I can help leaders outside in the common civilian community become the best version of a leader for their company, because everybody's different. Different companies ask for different things, but as a leader you have to know where you are, how you playing, how it's impacting, and also if you move somebody else, you have to relearn that thing again, right? So it's an ever
Mhm.
learning cycle of leadership and employing leadership tactics, knowledge, experience to meet the need of your people today, not yesterday, not in the future, the people you have today, right? Because those are the ones counting on you. So that's kind of how I got into all of this. And podcasting came by way of the pandemic. I'm glad it did. It has been very fruitful in terms of my experience and the great people I get to meet. You're experiencing that now as you're doing this, and
Mhm.
you'll reflect back at when you started, of just the amount of people that this world has that are just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They give
Mhm.
you a perspective of that goes towards hope, because there's a lot of hopeless messages out there right now. Doing this allows you to see that there is still a glimmer of light and hope and future, with the people that you get to meet.
Wow. I really love that you just added towards the end because I feel that way. I think that being able to highlight the good in the world is something that we need more, something that we're super frontline privileged to get to experience, but we do not you, but for my personal experience, like I have this beautiful opportunity of meeting so many incredible humans. That's why I do my Great Humans to Know post because I'm just in awe of all of the things going on and all that we are truly supporting our communities. And that's inspiring, especially with all of the things going on in the world, as you mentioned. The world can be worlding, but we still have hope within each other. And you are constantly bringing that in. And something that I want to double tap on, and I didn't prep you for this, but the what you said about being a leader now, like, I wanna dive into that because what shifts are you seeing that leaders might not be aware of or that are very common that they're struggling with?
Well, the title of today's chat is leadership without the collateral damage, right? And this is where, what I meant by leading now. When a leader is unable to focus on the needs of their people today, all they do is they open up a bank account for collateral damage,
Mm.
because you cannot, in a high paced environment, you cannot go back to redo what you did not address. As a leader, you have to be conscious and aware and in the moment enough to address what needs to be addressed today so that it doesn't become a problem tomorrow. A lot of those tough conversations leaders are unwilling to have. And an unwilling leader is an unable leader, because if they're not willing, they are negating their responsibility and in turn creating damage for their people to deal with. And so, one of my biggest questions on leaders or to leaders when I engage them or they engage me for coaching is, what's the level of willingness for them to go through this process of transformation, right? Of development, because it's painful at times. But an unwilling leader I cannot even deal with, right? So it just it's one of those conversations that leaders need to start having with themselves. What what level of willingness do I have towards my people? And if I'm not willing to do what my people need, then I need to consider that I might not want to be their leader. And
Mm,
even further, they may not want me to be their leader.
wow. Ooh, you hit so many things. Where to start? Because I think it's and the recognition that it's not always to, look at yourself and see where your shortcomings are and be honest and open with that and grow through it. It doesn't have to be a limitation, right? And that's why it's called development. Development in all stages. Like think about growing pains as a kid, like it was painful. But also that last part of like maybe you're not the leader for this group. Maybe you're not that. And that's a recognition I think that is very humbling to come to. Do you often see leaders ever get to that point? Or hopefully if they're working with you, they move through these things. But my I guess my better question would be have you moved through that very hard truth and have you seen them come out of it?
Yeah, I was the first one that I ever knew that actually realized that and took action and said, "You know what? I need to separate. I need to leave. I need to leave because the in this environment that I am in, I'm not willing to support, and in turn, that will become an obstacle for the people that I serve because they're going to
Mm.
see those actions and then they're going to either choose to replicate that and then now you got kind of like a coup, or they will choose one leader over the other. And I'm not one leader that is willing to ingest division over pride. And
Mm.
so I decided to walk away and say, that's I wish everybody well, but I'm not the one uh, that needs to be here right now. They required a different type of leader that I just was not.
Yeah. Well, and that only opened up not only the opportunity for the leader that was aligned for that position, but then also you to the next opportunity. And I say this often that a no is not a missed opportunity. It's opening space for what is. And you work in these, so you've worked under high pressure situations both in the military and within, your leadership. How do you teach leaders how to make those sound decisions in those high stake moments?
Yeah, you really can't teach leaders to make sound decisions. What you could do
Okay.
is you could teach them the difference between impulse decision and thoughtful decisions. And because when you talk about the things that come from inside, they're so tied to our past that you really have to dig deep to change someone's perspective on a decision they're making. Oftentimes, I work with people that don't even realize that their current decisions are pinned to a moment way back where. And, so it takes
Mm.
time to get them to realize, oh, that's why I'm so quick to say no when this comes up. I don't really have a thought on this or that, but I'm real quick to say no. And it's because it was tied to some trauma or it was tied to an event that was really impactful. And back then I decided no way. Right. So what
Mm.
you can train people to do is say, hey, identify the decision that needs to be had And are you just a impulse type of leader that you're just lashing out at things and, whatever comes, it's just a straight no? Or are you the type of leader that is thoughtful enough to say, let me consider what's being asked. Let me consider who's asking. That's important, right? And let me consider the ramifications for what I'm going to actually answer, and my willingness to support that come hell or high water. Because making a decision as a leader may be very easy, but what's not easy is backing up what you decided when you get opposition. Because what
Mm,
happens is a lot of leaders become flip flops when that opposition comes, and then they're trying to appease everybody for their requests when you already decided a thing, right? So there's a lot of thoughtfulness that needs to be
mhm.
had, or you'll just accept that your decisions will be impulsive and damaging and lead to the collateral damage that we were just talking about.
Yeah. Now, why do you think it is that themselves trying to backpedal or appease everyone? Is it a trait that they have or a personality? Like, what is it that makes them do that instead of just standing firm in that decision and understanding there might be a little bit of wiggle room here or there, but like a concrete decision, correct?
Well, what happens is that leaders that backpedal never were founded on how they decided. They did not have all of the information at the time they decided, and they just made a whimsical type of decision. And now, as time happens, they get more information, and then they realize, oh, snap, I should have just waited, and I should have just. And so that's where they start to backpedal. That's
Mhm.
why there are some decisions that need to be decided immediately. Those are typically life threatening decisions. I seldom see life threatening situations in the common workplace. So,
Right.
why are we treating decisions like if people are going to die today? No,
Mm,
take a pause. You have the flexibility to say, you know what? I need a couple of hours to think about this one, because I don't have all the information that I need to make a wise and thoughtful decision on this. Be honest. But that's the problem. People think that because they're leaders, they have to have the answers right now. They have to
right.
answer it all. Everything ends and starts with me. And no, that's not the case. So give yourself the actual time that you need to decide, and let people know why. Say, man, I don't have the information right now to decide that, but let's talk. Let me get some more information, and I'll get you an answer. And I say in about an hour, two, whatever. Okay. Then you don't have to backpedal, right?
Right.
So that's one thing that leaders are challenged with, feeling pressured as if they need to come up with all the right answers now.
Right. And do you think that's like partially cultural, like a culturally embedded response and reaction? Or is it the fear that let me just say this differently. Do you think that leaders feel like they will be taken out of position if they don't have that answer right away? Is that a common patterning you see within leaders?
It's a All right. So who puts you in position? People think it's the company because they hired you for a spot. People put you in a leadership position, because no matter
Mm,
what title or spot you have in the hierarchy of a company, you could be a leader nobody follows. leadership requires followers. And so
Mm.
we fear the wrong thing, but it is in a way a fear thing, right? If I don't answer quickly enough, they may feel I'm not the leader when they're actually looking for the person that is actually thinking and being strategic and being tactical so that they can be operational. And so it's a misconception of what's required and what's demanded. Um, and yeah, a lot of fear is in it, but that's because folks don't ask questions. You know,
Mm.
when you get hired, ask those questions. Hey, what kind of leader are you looking for? Because this is the type of leader I am. That is point one. Most leaders don't even know the type of leader they are. So yeah, it could be fear, it could be a lot of things, but a lot of that will be dispelled and cast away with you knowing who you are, knowing why you are, and knowing what impact you have when you do what you do. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
that's what I would say.
Well, and I think that's why having a coach helps you decipher and really move through those key factors because let's be real, like when leaders go into leadership positions, they're not always equipped with the leadership skills that are required to be in that position. And it's not that they don't have the ability to get there, it's that they might not feel comfortable asking for mentorship or they might not have the opportunity to have coaching, so they have to seek it themselves. And they can give themselves so much more by investing in that support because I mean, what you've done for me is help me see things from a different perspective. I've been able to soundboard off like, here's what I'm where I'm trying to go. This is what I'm trying to do. And you're like, hang on, hold please. And, and it's what we need. We need that recalibration to really, okay, adjust and really focus. Okay, what is it going to require you to do that though? And so I guess my next question for that, to follow up is what do you think holds people back from seeking coaching in the beginning?
Yeah, the very first and foremost thing is finances. They
Mhm.
believe that they cannot get a coach for a price that they can pay, right? And uh, yeah, you've made an investment in yourself, right? A lot of people don't know what that investment looks like, right? And there's a lot of opportunities that come by way of LinkedIn, by way of messages, by way of posts that a lot of people miss out on. And you know that because we've discussed this. There's been, I made an offer. Three people took it out of 26,000 that, that follow, right? And so finances is number one. Number two is that a lot of people feel that coaching is a declaration that they don't have it all. Well, guess what? You don't even have to make that declaration. I'll tell you, you don't have it all. You don't.
Mhm.
I don't. Right. And so this pride comes into play, as in, I don't need a coach. I've been hired. I've been put. I've been placed. I've done this. I've done that. Wow. The many excuses as to why we don't, and but those are the two primal reasons: finances and pride.
Mhm. Well, and we're talking about collateral damage, and I think that the biggest thing that you've really hit hard on in your talks have been that having poor leadership causes a lot of damage. And what in your experience, like what has the like poor leadership? How has that not only reflected in the team, but what is it like to work under an unprepared leader?
Yeah, it's painful, right? When we say collateral damage, the the very important part there is that there's damage, right? It's just
Mm,
you were in the area, and the funny thing is that you don't even have to be under a poor leader and still feel damage because you see your colleague that is suffering under that person, and now you feeling for them, but you're thinking
mm,
about them, but you trying to do your work, right? So this goes beyond your immediate team. This is a no joke proverbial grenade. All right, you
mm.
cast a grenade. You're talking about 30 feet immediate, but then there's shrapnel, and then there's this and that, right? And so this is what happens when you have leaders that knowingly, and this is the bad part about all of this, knowingly they understand that they are not ready for that position. And they're unwilling to do what is required of that position because they've already accepted that they're getting paid for their lack of qualification.
That one's hard to hear, I'm sure, for some people. Sorry, that was really
Yep.
good. That was really good.
So when you're already getting paid for lack of understanding, you're already getting paid for lack
Mm,
of comprehension of what it takes to be a leader, then you start feeling at ease with the feeling of, I don't need nothing else. They're already paying me for it. And when you start feeling at ease with that, then there are other things that come because most of the time that you see a headline associated with leaders, it's an infringement on ethical standards.
mhm,
And that all stems from I'm getting paid to be who I am.
mm,
There's no desire, nor is there a requirement to become better because we are already paying you for how you are. And so
mm.
that's that's one of the sad parts of leadership um, that somehow we got to get a grip on.
Yeah. Well, and you're hitting home something that I think people are experiencing now, that that's not a truth anymore, though. That, like, just because you have this position doesn't mean you're secure or safe. If anything, with all of the changes going on in the world, I think leaders really have to evolve. And that means being willing to, like you were talking about earlier, having those uncomfortable, hard conversations, because we are facing so many different changes all at the same time. And if you can't hold that capacity, you might not have a team, you know? And it might not be by choice either, but still, like, in your experience, what is it going to take for leaders today, with the changes in AI, with the changes in administration, with all of the changes that they're seeing? What is it going to require them to be better at and willing to look at in the future?
Well, the first thing you have to do is shut the noise off. It's just too much noise. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't even watch TV. I don't, I watch a program with my wife, and it's usually a documentary, something that educates, right? Something that you get smarter on. Uh, Shut the noise off. How do you do that? You'll have to design what that looks like for you. But that's number one. You cannot think clearly in a room full of noise. And so do that first and give yourself an environment where you can think.
Mhm.
The next thing would be, don't judge anyone else. Start looking at you. Never mind who else is doing or not doing. This is your time. Focus on you, right? hey, Enrique, this is how you are. This is what has been told to you. This is the time to explore whether that's true or not. And if it's true, take it to heart and start doing something about it. Because you cannot lead one more person down a hole of demise, misery, and discontent. You have to lead somebody to the promised land. You have to lead them to greener pastures. You have to if you're going to lead, right? They're doing bad
Mm,
all by themselves. They don't need you to come on board as extra weight and another person to take them down another wrong road. They don't need it. What can you do as a leader to make them see clearly, hope further, and achieve their goals by knowing you or by having you in their life? If you cannot do that, don't get into their life.
mm,
Don't even show up, right? So start with you, get some things in order, and as you live your life and start relating to others, implementing those things that you know will be good for them, and help them, then you'll develop as well along the way. But that I used to say, "Oh, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, how can I make my life worse?" And I believe that, but there surely are people who wake up in the morning and don't give a thought of how much they're going to make your life worse. Right? They
mm.
won't do it to themselves, but they'll do it to somebody else. And so, if you're a leader and you're doing that, you need to get out of the way. And I hope that we get to the point where senior leadership starts taking action on it. If I was a senior leader and a
Mhm.
person came to work at my company and I saw the first inkling of anything that I've been talking about, I will stop operations and say, we need to talk because after today, you may or may not be here based on your willingness. And so we're
Mhm.
going to have a conversation. You're either going to be willing or not, and you're going to let me know, or you can go home because we can't have that here. If we had leaders like that, then we be straight, but we don't, right?
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, like you said, it's the awareness piece that you're always talking about is the more in tune with ourselves, the easier it is to really pay attention to what's even going on in the external environment to know whether there needs to be a shift or a change. And, two more questions for you, and then we'll wrap up for your time. I just super appreciate this today. What can leaders do, or what can people who are heading into leadership do to really prepare themselves in advance if they know that leadership is on their mind? Let me back up and say one more question. Define leadership. I think we hear it all the time, but I don't know that we value the full definition of what a leader is. So let's start there and then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah. So leadership is the ability to impact somebody else in a way that they willingly will follow you. Now,
Mm,
that does not speak to uh, positive or negative, right? Because you can get people to follow you in a negative way, right? But that in itself is what leadership is, your ability to take actions in a way that someone else looks upon you and says, I want to follow that. You've just become a leader. But it starts really without followers, it starts with you, right? Because you have to lead yourself. Uh, if you cannot lead yourself, then you shouldn't be leading anybody else. And I would hope that you don't. Well, I implore you that you don't. Uh, so yeah, so that's how I would sum up leadership. Uh, and I think John Maxwell says it easy. He says influence, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. And a new emerging leader can do to really prepare them for those positions. I mean, I know that coaching is one of the biggest ways that has grown me as a person. And so I highly
Yeah.
recommend anybody that's heading into that to have that support in advance instead of again assessing the damage. But what other things can leaders do to really to be a leader?
So an emergent, a person that's growing up in, you know, the in the way, right? um,
Mhm.
and you have a desire. There's this thing in you that says, "Man, I would love to lead teams. I would love to do this, then the other." That's the first sign that you have some type of DNA in there about of leadership, because not everybody is equipped to lead, and not everybody wants to lead. I know thousands that be like, "Pfft, that's you, bro. Go ahead, have fun. I'll be supportive," right? And that's good. That's okay, because at least they know, you know. And this is the thing: you have to know that leadership is for you, or you have to know that it isn't, and that's okay. Hey, I know people making six figures don't run nothing; they support. So it's not the money, folks, because I know leaders that are getting paid junk and have all the stresses in the world, right? So it's not the money, it's the desire, the heart. And so if you feel that way, that, hey, this is something that I would like to do, then start saying, what do I have that would be a benefit to somebody I'm leading? And what don't I have that I need to start exploring so that I do have it for it to be a benefit, right? And that internal assessment will put you on the right track. Now, having somebody, and I'll tell you this now, and you can share it later. You're welcome to share what I offered you. You're welcome to share that, because I know a lot of
Mhm.
leaders that are starting off don't have the resources to, pay a coach, four, five, $600 a month, right? Or even a session, because
Mhm.
that's how much it is sometimes. Um, so anyway, that's that. Start looking at mentors, coaches, and people that you know are in industry that can be of a resource. If you can look at mentors, coaches, and resources, and have a going list for those, have an active coach that you see, you will be by far one of the best leaders your people have ever seen. And it's that easy to become that good. And don't be afraid of those three, because they will be your sounding board, your catalyst, and your inspiration to keep going when tough times come, because it requires courage to be a leader. And a lot
Mhm.
of times that courage is for you, but most of the time it's courage for the defense of your people. And sometimes you got to put your tail on the line for the sake of your people. And so that requires a lot of courage. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for your time today. And the final question that I have is, out of this conversation, what do you hope leaders take away the most and something that they can really carry forward?
Yeah, I want leaders to understand it's not that hard. It is not that hard to be a great leader. Uh, the world is flooded with not so great leaders, so it's not that hard to separate yourself. You could do one thing different from the not so great leaders, and you're already on your way to greatness, right? So it's not that hard, but it does take selfless assessment. You have to assess what you're putting out into the world. If you don't do that, there will be no change, and there'll continue to
Mhm.
be collateral damage. But if you know that that's not you and that's not who you want to be, then it's not that difficult to say, let me get a
Mm.
mentor, let me get a coach, let me get an inspiration. At least let me do that. They can talk to me, I'll talk to them, I'll get better. In turn, I'll be a better person. In turn, I'll be a better leader. In turn, we'll have better outcomes wherever I go. That's simple. But if you don't do that, then we'll continue to see you being a poor leader, you eating up your people, and there be collateral damage everywhere you go. And so make
Mhm.
that simple change, and I think that you will be happy that you did.
Yeah. Well, and everyone that's listening, Enrique has a phenomenal podcast all about leadership. Do you want to tell us about that? And I want you to share the recent rankings on your show because it's phenomenal. Not only do you bring amazing leaders on there, but it's doing really well.
Yeah, thank you for that. So developing the Leader Within podcast, homage to John Maxwell. I'm certified coach through his platform. Is doing well after 6 years. This year, November, we'll celebrate our 300th episode. But I've
Mm.
had 700 episodes plus throughout other platforms that I've done other podcasts. It has been, and it is in the running for top Navy podcast, top educational podcast, and top podcast of the year on the veteran side, and also has been listed with the likes of Mel Robbins and so on and so forth. Simon Sinek, I was like, saw my podcast right underneath his, and I was like, what in the world? So I've
Mhm.
been blessed to see those things, and those are great people out there doing great things. On top of all the other awards that I've been able to receive, been blessed to be even nominated and get it. Top 50 podcasts over 50 in age, and Mel Robbins was in that list as well. So
Mhm.
happy, fortunate, blessed that the content is well received, and that all of my labor, along with the great guests, is doing things like that, getting us accolades in terms of podcast quality.
Yeah, I think it's incredible what you do for the communities that you're in and just your work in general. If anybody's interested in connecting with you or working with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, for connecting, LinkedIn is the best way. You can go to my profile. I do have a link tree on there that'll take you to all the different resources that I have available, either to listen or participate. You're free to share the link uh,
Mhm. Will do.
for if anybody wants coaching, a very affordable way of getting it. Um,
Mhm.
uh, Candace knows this was just a special thing, but since I'm here, might as well. Since we talked about those that can't afford
Mhm.
those type
Yeah,
of things, so that link will be posted here, and would love to explore coaching with you. But yeah, so that's the best way. Um,
awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time and thank you for everyone that's been here. I'll make sure to get in there and comment and share all of your great information